Hi. So I didn't think I was going to get this posted today, but I'm going to try to get it up there. I just wanted to check in like I do weekly and talk about a few things from last week and then talk about this coming week. The first thing let's talk about is exam 2. So there was a 2-point curve because questions didn't go well when I looked at the statistics. Then there was that question number 27. It was about microbursts. That when I went back and looked at the statistics, no one got right because I put the wrong answer in for the answer key. So I attempted to edit that and then see if it would automatically fix your grades, and I didn't. And since I didn't want to have to play around with it, I went in and manually graded and gave you back the point if you got the question correct. So I think I originally had the correct answer marked as like a small tornado or whatever that option was that included tornado, when really it should have been a concentrated area of sinking air. So I went in, regraded that. So you may notice that in your feedback that it says, it may still tell you tornado is correct, even though it's not. It's area of sinking, concentrated area of sinking air. The other thing I noticed, which made me go, from some of you, was copying and pasting of answers straight from Google sources. Because I would take your answer and I would put it in my Google search bar and I would pop up with an answer. And if you recall, I really urged you not to be using Google for your answers. So I wasn't really happy with a few of you. And I wrote some comments that are like, this is an answer that's copied and pasted from the internet. Don't do this. So yeah, please use your own words. Please use our textbook as your reference, and let's not use Google for exam 3. If you didn't do it, great. If you did it, I noticed. Please don't do it again. Okay. Other things. I have opened up the severe weather grade, so I finished that worksheet. I'm going to work on hurricanes tonight. I may or may not get it completely finished tonight. If not, it'll get finished tomorrow. And then outlines I'm hoping to get finished by the end of the day on Monday. Just note with those are more for you than they are for me. My goal is basically just to get you working on your profile before it's due. So that's why you have to complete the outline. So I'm looking at it more as a complete document. Did you do it? Did you leave a ton of blanks left? How much did you already get researched and done? So it's not really a right or wrong, obviously. And that's, again, remember, it'll be a complete or incomplete in your grade book because it goes into your final rubric. Midweek, so probably Wednesday or Thursday, I will post what's been going on in the news. I did not do it on Friday because of our exam, and then I don't want to do it this next Friday because of our exam. So I'll post one in the middle that'll hopefully catch some of the stuff that's been going on. Probably Thursday, I will post a video about exam 3 and about grades. Just so you know, as you are looking, Canvas does a predicted grade, which basically means that it calculates your grade as of the class ending today. In my grade book, the highest grade I think you can have at this point, and I'm making this up because I didn't just look at it, is like 45%. So no one has an A, right? Because we have that much missing work. Because as you complete assignments, then your percentage grows. In Canvas, it does not do that. It says like, oh, this is your percentage of the work that you've done now. So just be leery that that's a predicted grade. That's not actually a calculated grade. And I will talk more in the video about how I will show you your grades on Canvas before I transfer them over into your final grade rubric as well. And realize the turnaround is not going to be as fast as it will be during the semester. When we're in a 16-week semester, the profile is due during week 15 of our essentially 16 to 17 week semester with finals. So I always get the profiles graded before final exams. Typically, everything's due on Saturday for this week. So just realize that I still have all of your profiles to grade. So it is going to take me a little bit longer. Now, if you turn in your profile early, I can start working on them this week, which is always great because it puts less for me at the end. So if you're in a place to turn in your profile early, I really appreciate it when you do that because I will start to grade them. If you're not, turn it in by Saturday. Remember, no late work on Saturday night. Everything profile, exam, connect quizzes, and assignments for this week. That's the drop dead date is 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. So just remember that. But I'll talk more about the grades in that video that I'll post on Thursday. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, sorry I have this long list, is the profile. So you have hopefully submitted your profile topic, gotten a complete. If you didn't read the comments and didn't get it back in by the late policy, you're going to get an incomplete on that. at this point, turned in your outline or plan on turning it in within the grace period, which is tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So again, if you haven't done your Connect quizzes or your assignments from last week, you still have 24 hours to turn them in. Please do that. Okay. And again, that is just part of your overall grade. It's in the rubric. If you go into Canvas in the assignment, you should be able to see the rubric, but a better place to look at the rubric is that special rubric document that I just have within our profile folder. It's a little more readable. Canvas has no formatting, so it gets a really wonky looking, but it looks better in the document. So take a look at that. Okay. So some things that you'll see that are required, and they're all listed in the important information file. Okay. So in that important information document talks about margins, talks about font size, talks about how all I want at the top of the page is your name. I don't want a title page. I don't want a header. So it talks about those really simple requirements. And that's, you'll see if you look at the rubric, one of the requirements is, did you follow these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The other thing that's in the rubric is works cited. With your works cited, here are some big things that people think they can like slide past. Any professor, I'm guessing, not just me. If it is in your works cited, it should be in your text. Like it needs to be cited within the text. If you have something in your works cited that I can't find, all I have to do is a simple Control F, put in the author's last name, and if it never pops back up again, except for in the works cited, you didn't actually use it. Or you didn't cite them correctly, which is also a problem, so you're not going to get credit for it. Okay, so make sure it is complete. The other thing is a website works cited is not just the web address. So you shouldn't just have CNN.com/Katrina/ a series of numbers / blah, 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 blah. Okay, you need to have CNN if there's not an author, the date you accessed it, if there's a date on it when it was written, and then the web address, not just the web address, okay? You can use whatever format you are most familiar with within your discipline. APA, I can't even name some of them. Yeah, APA is the only one that comes to my mind, but I know there's others. MLA maybe, okay? Whatever you're comfortable with, that's fine. But just make sure you're actually doing something. Purdue OWL is a great source for that. I linked it in the profile. Document, you basically say, it walks you through kind of like, what are you trying to cite? Or give us your information and we'll show you what a works cited looks like. Okay, so use that. Okay, that brings me to in-text citations. I am in the school of thought that I would rather have too many in-text citations rather than missing in-text citations. Okay, so an in-text citation, for those of you that are not familiar, should be following anything that is not general knowledge. Okay, you don't only use an in-text citation with a direct quote, and we'll come back to direct quotes here in a second. Okay, for our course, and I have it written in the important information document, I believe, you need to put a in-text citation after every single number. How many people died, what it cost, damages, because every website, especially when we're looking at articles that are published immediately after a disaster, are going to have different numbers. And it doesn't mean they're wrong, though maybe later we find out that numbers are incorrect. Okay, but someone reported it, it was published, and it's worth noting, but you need to put it in. So let's say we're looking at Hurricane Maria, and MSNBC said 1,000 people died. Okay, so you're going to say the death toll was 1,000 people. Parenthesis, sorry, I'll do it so it looks the right way when you're looking at it. Parentheses, MSNBC 2019, or maybe it was 2018 probably, parenthesis. Okay, that's what it needs to look like. Typically within an in-text citation, you're going to do either the organization, and that's usually for a news source, or an author, that'll be first, and then a date. So the date in which the article was written, or if that's not listed, the date in which the year in which you are accessing. So, if it's something like Hurricane Maria, be 2018 or 2019. If it was Katrina, which it should not be, remember that's not a disaster you can choose, most of them would be 2005. Okay? Like I said, I would rather you liberally use in-text citations than me to have to constantly put in parentheses after effect, citation, citation, citation. Okay, and you'll see that in the rubric. How many are you missing? The more you're missing, the more points you're going to start to miss. Direct quotes. I should not see a single direct quote in any of your papers. If we were in class and that happened, I would throw us a party. I do not allow direct quotes. 99.9% of the time, you don't need one. You are now knowledgeable enough to be able to paraphrase the information and just use an in-text citation. Give that person credit for this is how the information got and I rewrote it for myself. Okay? If you run into a situation where you are really looking at something and you're like, you know what, it's too scientific or I don't know how to change it, I don't know what to do, email me and I will help you. Okay? There's two trains of thoughts on direct quotes that I've run into with students. The first is they're putting it in instead of their own writing. That's what I really want to avoid. I want to see what you can write. I don't need to see what someone that's published wrote. Whether they're good, bad, or ugly in terms of their writing and their reporting, I don't care. I need to see that you as an individual can write because I'm grading you. I'm giving you a grade, not that person. So that's one way they pad their paper so they have to write last. They just pull out the quote, put it in. The other thing I see is that some people are so afraid of plagiarizing, they feel like they need to put things in direct quotes. Plagiarism is bad, obviously, right? But I do also, and most people do understand, there are only so many ways to report how many people died, okay? So don't get so nervous that you're going to write 3,000 people died and give that citation, right? Because we're talking about a number, which is always the good rule to follow. And you put in direct quotes because you're so nervous. You're like, that's how they wrote it in the article I'm looking at. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's a short sentence. It's a hard thing to think of. You know, if you're worried about something like that, combine sentences. Okay, so don't have these little choppy sentences. Don't say like this many people died, this many people were injured. It costs as much. Say, okay, Hurricane Katrina I'll say it this way, just so I'm actually saying a real fact. Hurricane Katrina was the most expensive disaster in U.S. record, replacing Hurricane Andrew, and caused this many fatalities. Okay, something like that helps you from feeling like I'm writing the same sentence that I'm just pulling out of my article, but she's requiring me to tell you this information. So how else do I say it? Things like that can really help. Okay. If you plagiarize, you will get a 0 on your profile. So don't do it. Like I said, it's easy. Copy paste, pulls it up. With sources, remember you need at least 5. You are not limited to 5. One of those needs to be textbook. As I mentioned, and I'm not sure if it was in a video or if it was in an email, the goal is that you use our textbook. Oh, it wasn't a video, sorry. If you can't use our textbook, let's say you're just not finding what you want in there, try physicalgeography.net. That's an online textbook that's open source. We have a library on campus. You have the library in your hometown, no matter where you may be, that you don't have to have a library card to go in and look things up. So look for things. And there's a lot of open source books on the internet as well. So Google Scholar is a great place to look if you're struggling. But really, you should be able to find something from our textbook that will fit within your profile. Okay, my last big thing for the profile, especially now that you've written an outline, is flow. Okay? I expect that you have an introduction and I expect that you have a conclusion. You are writing a document. You are not writing a list. So I don't want to say get in the habit, or don't think that the correct answer is taking your outline and plopping it into paragraphs directly. Now, some of this will depend on how you write an outline. A true outline is fragmented sentences, right, where it's not super complete. Some of you may not really have outlined and really written in complete sentences. Again, I haven't looked at them yet, so you may fall into one of those two boats. Either way, you don't want your paper to be very choppy, okay? And it gets choppy when you have these really short sentences like 3,000 people died. It injured 4,000 people. It cost this much. And so you take that like basic information, which is location, magnitude, deaths, injuries, cost, and it's 5 different short little sentences. Put some writing effort into it. I'm not expecting you all to be scholars. Some of us write better than others. I'm, to be honest, pretty middle of the ground when it comes to writing. Okay, use connecting words, make longer sentences and shorter sentences. Use transition words moving through paragraphs. Okay, don't just plop your outlines in, okay, because it doesn't read nicely that way. Okay, you want it still to read like a paper. you don't want it to read like an outline. And notice that's in the rubric is kind of talking about how does your paper flow overall? Does it read like a paper? Okay. Do not forget a conclusion because you need to tie up your paper. Okay. Typically, I'm looking for at least 4 sentences in a paragraph. Don't give me 1 or 2 sentence paragraphs. If you're kind of in that weird thing, again, transitions are your friends. See what you can combine. It does not need to go in the exact order of the outline. You know, you can combine things if you feel like you need to, or things are related. Okay. And then lastly, a question that I got individually from an email that I think is worth addressing with all of you. When we are looking to compare whatever hazard you picked with another geographic area, the question was basically, should it be in the United States or should it be in a different geographic location? 90% of you are choosing to cover hazards that are not tornadoes. In that case, you should be picking the same disaster in another geographic location, so another country, another continent, because they happen all over the place. And when you pick very different locations, so like let's look at earthquakes, because these are 2 events you are not permitted to copy. So if we're either writing about Haiti's earthquake, or if we're writing about the Japanese earthquake and tsunami, either of those, looking at those 2 and comparing them would be fantastic, because we can see the very large differences between how Haiti was able to recover, which from your textbook we know is very, very slow. Some argue that we're still dealing with some of the repercussions that happened after that, versus Japan, which is top of the line when it comes to these types of events, and their turnaround and cleanup was very, very fast. Okay, so they're a really great kind of example to look at, to say, like, look how high the magnitude was in Japan. Not that the magnitude wasn't high in Haiti, but how much higher it was, and how much more quickly they turned everything around, even with these issues like the nuclear power plants, the radiation, that type of thing, and the tsunami that followed, versus just our earthquake that we had in Haiti. Okay, so that makes it a lot easier. So if you are able to pick events and say you're covering one that's in the United States, and pick one that happens somewhere else, where, you know, country, political values are different, the role of government is different just in everyday people's lives, the amount of funds they have, that makes a really nice comparison, and it actually makes it a lot easier for you to write about, to be like, look at the differences. Okay. If you pick them in the same country, it's a lot harder, because a lot of times, right, we're looking more at country government involvement rather than individual. Now, for those of you that are doing tornadoes, picking a tornado that happens, most of you, I would say, are covering the Moore, Oklahoma tornado, and I could be wrong, or Joplin, okay, very large name tornadoes that have happened. Tornadoes are very American, as you remember, or North American, if you remember from reading in the text. So there are going to be fewer options for you to compare in other countries. And especially if we're looking at a, like an EF4 or 5, so a large tornado, you may have a harder time finding a larger tornado of that magnitude that happened outside of the country. So in that case, it would be great if you could pick a tornado that happened somewhere else within the country, kind of as far apart as you can get. And the nice thing about tornadoes, and why we can see the comparison a little bit better, even though we're within the same country, is a lot of times the states are doing most of the work there. FEMA may come in and help, and there may be assistance from the outside government, but the on-the-ground kind of planning comes from the state governor or from the state government. And so that can be more helpful, because as we know, in other facets that we're seeing play out in the news, right? There's a lot of differing opinions on state levels. So you can still see that comparison. It's not as easy, but given our specific hazard, in this case, tornadoes, which aren't as geographically worldwide spread, that might be a little easier for you. So that was a very long-winded explanation, but if you can pick it in a different country, it's going to be easier for you. So if you didn't do that, it may be something worth looking into, because you still have a little bit of time. Okay. I think that's it. Sorry, this is a longer video than I had intended it to be, so I apologize. Hopefully you're watching it the whole way to the end. As I said, we'll have one more video check-in during the week. We'll talk about grades. Otherwise, we are officially in week 4. Crazy, we're almost done. and things have been moving on. Just get that legwork in if you haven't done it yet, please. All right, as always, if you have any questions, please email me. And if you can start now with your issues that you may be having rather than waiting until Saturday in the afternoon, which I will try to be really like glued to my computer on Saturday, that would be better. So we're not putting out fires right before the class ends. Let's try to put any fires out throughout the week as they come up. All right, thank you guys.